Peter Marco Falconio was born on the 20th of September 1972. He was the third of four sons in a family who lived in Hepworth, West Yorkshire in England. In 1996, he started a relationship with Joanne Lees after meeting her in a local nightclub. Lees soon began living with him the following year in Brighton, where Falconio was studying at Brighton University. On the 15th of November in the year 2000, the couple embarked on a trip to Nepal, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Cambodia, and finishing off in Australia. By the 16th of January, the year 2001, the couple had arrived in Sydney on a working holiday visa, and on the 25th of June, they departed on a road trip planned as Sydney to Canberra, Melbourne, Adelaide, Darwin, and Brisbane. As the two went to investigate the rear of the vehicle, Lees moved into the driver's seat, ready to rev the engine. She then heard a loud bang from the rear of the van, and moments later, the man was at the window, brandishing a silver handgun. The gunman climbed into the van. Lees let him secure her hands behind her back with black cable ties, but fought the tying of her feet and the taping of her mouth. She was then dragged to the Toyota. Noticing the gunman's dog, but fearing rape, managed to flee into the bush while the gunman was distracted, apparently while moving Falconio's body. The gunman searched for Lees before leaving, passing nearby 3 times, but she hid before finally flagging down a road train driver at 12:35 a.m., who with his co-worker took her back to Barrow Creek. This leads us to the investigation. The Alice Springs police were called around 1:30 a.m. and arrived to collect evidence and testimonies at around 4:20 a.m. They commenced a search for Falconio, the Toyota in question, and the gunman at 7 a.m. in the morning. Returning to the scene, they found a dirt-covered pool of blood and the couple's combi hidden some 80 metres into the scrub. It was not until 8 hours after the rescue that roadblocks were put in place on the 12 likely roads exiting the district. Police searched all of these areas in the following months, but it revealed little except Lee's footprints. 4 Aboriginal trackers arrived from a nearby settlement within a few days, but none of them found evidence of either Falconio or the gunman. Given the unusual nature of the attack and the lack of corroborating evidence, i.e. Falconio's belongings or body not being found, it took the police some days to appreciate the significance of the crime. But in the wake of the backpacker case, the media were quick to sensationalise Lee's story as one of survival in a crime of unusual horror against all odds. However, there were some inconsistencies in Lee's statements, and her demeanour in the following weeks shifted attention to the veracity of her version of the incident. Police became hopeful that the release of some CCTV footage would lead to the person shown coming forward to remove themselves from suspicion. When this did not happen, investigators began to focus on registered owners of any model Toyota Land Cruisers that are 4-wheel drives made between 1991 and 1999. Based on these results, police interviewed Bradley John Murdoch in Broome on the 1st of November 2001. Though Lee's initial description did not immediately connect the case to him and no DNA sample was collected, on the 17th of May 2002, investigators caught Murdoch's run-running accomplice, who began to relay details of his connections to the case, and a DNA examination of Murdoch's brother also supported his involvement. Murdoch then disappeared, but on the 22nd of August 2002, he was arrested and tried on an unrelated kidnap and assault charge by the South Australia Police. This leads us to the murder trial. So after extradition, a committed hearing began in April 2005. The trial began on 17th of October of that year before the Supreme Court of the Northern Territory in Darwin. To cope with the demands of the trial and the huge media contingent covering the proceedings, the court building in Darwin was renovated at a cost of nearly $1 million. The judge in question was Brian Ross Martin, QC, Chief Justice of the Northern Territory. Murdoch, of course, pleaded not guilty. Lees had identified Murdoch from police photographs shown to her in November 2002, and finally when she came face-to-face during the trial on the 18th of October. She also told the court that her assailant tied her wrists together behind her, put a sack over her head, and forced her into his ute, stating that the person forced her between the seats of and into the rear of his vehicle. Lee said she escaped from the ute and fled into the dark, hiding under bushes, while Murdoch tried to find her using a torch. Expert trackers could find no sign of footprints other than those of Lee's in the vicinity. Murdoch was found to have left Alice Springs at a time and in a direction which were both consistent with him being at or around Barrow Creek at the time of the murder. Expert testimony presented at the trial indicated that he was the man captured in the CCTV footage. The indication was later corroborated by Murdoch's own father, as well as his business associate, James Helpy. The police found traces of Murdoch's DNA on a pair of homemade handcuffs used in the attack. This, combined with the DNA match on Lee's t-shirt, allowed Murdoch to be charged with the murder. Murdoch's defense argued during the trial that the DNA match could have been due to accidental blood transfer in an Alice Springs Red Rooster restaurant prior to the alleged offence, or could have been simply planted by persons unknown. Further samples were found to be contaminated and were not presented as evidence. Murdoch gave evidence that he had stopped at the restaurant to buy chicken for himself and his dog. During the committal hearing, Lees at one stage mentioned that she and Falconio had stopped at Red Rooster. On the 13th of December 2005, Murdoch was found guilty by a jury in a unanimous verdict, and he was sentenced to life imprisonment with a non-parole period of 28 years. He was also convicted of another assault-related charge on Lees. Only after the sentencing was it revealed that Murdoch had previously been charged and acquitted with aggravated sexual assault on a mother and daughter in South Australia some years earlier.